Yo, yo, here we go. In that time long ago, the time to which all mythology refers, the sun roamed the earth at will. When he came too near with his fierce heat, the people were scorched. And when he did away, and when he hid away in his cave, the dark rift, for a long time, too idle to come forth, the night was long and the earth cold. Once upon a time, Tawatch, the hair god, gah! Another fucking rabbit situation of the rabbit on the moon, was sitting with his family by the campfire in the solemn woods, anxiously waiting for the return of Tavi, the wayward sun god. Wearied with long watching, the hair god fell asleep, and the sun god came so near that he scorched the naked shoulder of Tawitz. Foreseeing the vengeance which would be thus provoked, he fled back to his cave beneath the earth. Tawitz awoke in great anger, and speedily determined to go and fight the sun god. After a long journey of many adventures, the hair god came to the brink of the earth, and there watched long and patiently, till at last the sun god cometh out. He shot an arrow at its face, but the fierce heat consumed the arrow, and it had finished its intended course. Then another arrow was sped, but that also was consumed, and another, and still another, till only one remained in his quiver. But this was the magical arrow that had never failed its mark. Tawatz, holding it in his hand, lifted the barb to his eye and baptized it in a divine tear. Then the arrow was sped and struck the sun god full in the face, and the sun was shivered into 1,000 fragments, which fell to the earth, causing a general conflagration. Then Tawatch the hair god fled before the destruction he had wrought, and as he fled the burning earth consumed his feet, consumed his legs, consumed his body, consumed his hands and his arms. All were consumed but the head alone, which bowed across valleys and over mountains, fleeing destruction from the burning earth, until at last, swollen with heat, the eyes of the god burst, and the tears gushed forth in a flood, which spread over the earth and extinguished the fire. The sun god was now conquered, and he appeared before a council of the gods to await sentence. In that long council were established the days and the nights, the seasons and the years, with the length thereof, and the sun was condemned to travel across the firmament by the same trail day after day till the end of time. The Pawnee Indians of Nebraska are even more descriptive about what happened in the sun when the cataclysm occurred. In their legend, they say that when the sun goes out, the world will come to an end. The legend that when the moon turned red, the people would then know that the world was coming to an end. The sun was also to shine bright, and all at once that brightness would die out, and the end would come. The old people knew also that when the world was to come to an end, and there were to be many signs. Among the stars would be many signs. Meteors would fly through the sky. The moon would change its color once in a while. The sun would also show different colors, but the sign nearest to the people with the rivers of the creeks were to rise. The Indians of the Great Lakes also mention in their legend that the sun caused a great havoc on the earth. The legend centered around a boy whose bird-skin coat is burned by the sun. He swore that he would have vengeance. He persuaded his sister to make him a noose of her own hair. He fixed it just where the sun would strike the land as it rose above the earth's disk, and sure enough he caught the sun and held it fast so that it did not rise. The animals who ruled the earth were immediately put into great commotion. Earthquakes, they had no light. They called a council to debate upon the matter, and to appoint someone to go and cut the cord, for this was a very hazardous enterprise, as the rays of the sun would burn up whoever came so near. At last the dormouse undertook it, for at this time the dormouse was the largest animal in the world. Macedon? When it stood up, it looked like a mountain. When it got to the place where the sun was snared, its back began to smoke and burn with the intensity of the heat, and the top of its carcass was reduced to enormous heaps of ash. It succeeded, however, in cutting the cord with its teeth and freeing the sun, but it was reduced to very small size, and has remained so ever since. In the southern United States, we come to the Creek and Cherokee tribes. The Creeks have a creation legend similar to the one described in the Bible. They also say the earth was entirely covered by water. After a long period of time, the earth became populated with many, but something happened, and the earth became angry and ate up a portion of her progeny. How the people started out on a journey toward the sunrise. How they crossed a river of slime, then a river of blood, and came to the king of mountains, whence a great fire blazed upward with a singing sound. This legend seems to allude to the red clay that, when mixed with the water, appeared to be like blood flowing in the streams. The Cherokee tribe, also on the Gulf of Mexico, say that the sun was too close and too hot to the earth, and it burned up many things. The Maccabi Indians of Paraguay are very specific in pointing out what caused the destruction. The destruction of the world was due to the sun. This orb once fell from the sky, but a Maccabi hastened to pick it up before it did any injury, and fastened it in its place with pegs. A second time it fell and burned up the earth. Two of the tribe and a man and his wife climbed a tree and escaped destruction, but a flash of flame reached them, and they fell to the ground, where they were changed into monkeys. Yikes. This is not the only one that says this crazy shit. There's other ones that talk about them being changed into monkeys. It's crazy as shit. Who knows? The what do you call it, culture? Maybe it's just crazy because I'm ignorant of it. But anyway, the culture in Japan does not have what we would call a very clear self-explanatory mythology of the last cataclysm. Instead, the sequence of events that occurred is coded and concealed in some very fanciful mythologies. The main one being the legend of Izanagi. Izanagi, we would consider their idea of God. The legend tells us his sister, the old sun, went to the underworld when she grew old and was about to die. The legend goes on. After Izagani had slain his son, the fire god, and brought into being new gods, a new sun, including dragons. Gah! No monkeys? He was seized with longing to see Izagi once more. Accordingly, he set out to find her in Yomi, the dark Hades of the underworld. When Izanagi reached the gloomy dwelling of his sister, she raised the door, and he spoke to her, saying, "Thine augustness, my lovely young sister, the lands that I and you made are not yet finished, so come back." This part of the legend is attempting to tell us that when the old sun disappeared, surely into the rift during door dwelling, the great rift, there was a period of darkness that covered the earth. Later on in the legend tells us that associated with the old sun is fire, thunder, lightning, and earthquakes. Eventually a new sun reappears and the earth is brought to life again.